we've had a number of policemen also who have complained how they are engaged in activities that isn't theirs, right? From politicians misusing them. There are policemen who've even complained that are being used as houseboys sometimes. We've seen bodyguards, aides carrying bags for the people they're supposed to be protecting, right? This also contributes to the bad behavior. And essentially what I'm asking is, the way the police are studying those people who are higher than them, the way they're dealing with them, does it influence? And if you're going to be an aide to a multi-billionaire somewhere, right, and you don't have it, they keep you outside their gates or in their cars. We had the other day a governor who's being accused of not feeding his driver at all, and they were defending him and saying, but he's paid, he should feed himself. But these are the people you work with. This is also a complication that takes us to where we are today, right? You leave a bodyguard with 3 million shillings in your car. There's temptation for that. So how much of this is also a contributor to where we find ourselves in the service right now?
It is a big contributor. It is a big contributor in how officers sometimes react and behave. The only difference is, how have you been prepared? How have you been molded? How have you been insulated so that you are not tempted to do those bad vices? However, there are enough examples of bad conduct, misconduct by people who are the mirror of society that we're supposed to be reflecting upon. And there are numerous cases that you can enumerate. But if right from the top we were looking at people in the eye and saying they are role models, then we would not have even cases of officers having double standards. However, we don't want to fall into the trap of measuring ourselves against another group. The police have their own standards of policing and conducting themselves. And that's why I said they are trained that you either walk the straight and narrow or you will be chucked out.
Okay.
And that's why we have an institution like IAU that actually appreciates and compliments officers when they do a good job, and we absolve them when they are wrongfully accused.
Okay.
We are very hard on them equally when they misconduct themselves and they break the code of conduct. And I mentioned earlier that for every case we investigate, we also want to delve deeper and see what are the lessons learned from the misconduct of this officer. Were there logistical, administrative, operational challenges beyond the officer's personal conduct or misconduct that occasioned that problem? Because again, it helps the IG to also develop policy, regulation, and even avail resources to better the lives. Many cases abound here on when you look at the police existing infrastructure. Go to Central Police Station. When was it constructed? Is it in tandem? So it is easy to flog the police not doing the right job. But do we have a commensurate growth that is complementing the work?
Okay.
We will never encourage police officers to breach the code of conduct or be in discipline.
All right.
That is it.
I fully agree that when you mention the issue of like the state of some of the police stations, and I think as a country, while it might be very easy for us to be negative and feel very scared about what the future looks like when we look at some of these headlines like rogue police and what have you, maybe we need to be a little bit more patient because, for instance, when the Commissioner of Police was being, when he took over his new role, he mentioned the issue of police reforms and the things that they will do. Inspector General, and the things that he would want to do within his term in office, one of them being the renovation and building of new police stations to make sure that these services are, one, closer to the people, and two, in a better working, there are better working conditions for the police. So I think as much as it might look dark, there's still hope. But as, like I mentioned, as Kenyans, we hold our police to high standards because of the aspirations that we have based on our constitution.
All right, having discussed all these things, because there are numerous examples and the viewer out there, they're sending a lot of comments and even giving specific examples. I'll pick this specific example for no other reason but to elaborate this, because we need now to look at a solution. How do we move ahead with this? I know Osenya's said a number of things, but we are in it currently, so we need to look for the solution where we are currently,
Right
not
now.
what we can do, but what we should have done then. So he says, Fred says, I know a cop in Mombasa near Shimolatea prison who normally parks his Toyota RAV4 on the roadside and goes to collect 50 shillings for each passing matatu and lorry without an iota of shame or guilt that he's doing something wrong. That is just one example among many examples. Yeah, many examples that we might look at here.
Okay.
But now, how do we move this conversation to?
In 2002, when the NAC government got into power, we were rated as the most hopeful country in the world. In 2002, back then, when a police officer attempted to take a bribe, the whole of that matatu would stop and say, forget it, not happening. Do what you want. And the officer would be so embarrassed. Question then is, what happened?
What happened after that?
What happened? Why did we become so hopeless? Is it because corruption ended up soaring so high that we normalized it? Yes. That is why schools were burning the other time. Because parents buy exams for their children. So the child learns from home that hard work doesn't pay, there's a shortcut. When now you want to tell them this is not going to happen, it's chaos.
Yes.
What happened? I think we need to, and this is why, you've hosted me severally, and I've said here that if I have to congratulate Uhuru Kenyatta for anything else, it is for the attempt to even address the corruption menace. The attempt at it. It may not bear as much fruit as we want in the immediate future. That attempt was needed to forestall some of these things. If that police officer does that every single day, they know.
And they say him.
No one confronts him. Yes. If the people in that matatu would all stop and say, forget it. All of them in a chorus told him, forget it.
What he did
If
the
the
next
driver ensured that his car is in a good condition and drives confidently, because sometimes he gets that, you blame the giver and the taker. You will find that there is a driver who has an unroadworthy vehicle going with it to the road. He knows it's an offense.
Yes.
So it gains the police and gains the driver.
Okay.
These are two offenses.
Yes.
So we need to agree here that
we need to relook at our values.
There are issues
values
with
of
the
society. Society. Yes. Society.
I want to agree a bit with Osian, but also be the devil's advocate. The truth of the matter is that Kenyans are very comfortable with a policeman who takes bribes on the road,
exactly,
compared to a policeman who is strict.
Yes.
One time when I think I was doing my 5th form, in our home area, in a place called Dudi, 2 police officers who used to arrest people every morning were run over by a matatu. Wasasema hawa ni wajinga, hawajui ile kitu wanafanya. For your information, you find that our regulations are simple. We were supposed to be 14 in a matatu. And during Michuki's time, because of strictness, it was followed. You ask yourself, who is this Kenyan who wants to be the 15th person? Who wants to be the 16th person? And yet there's another matatu empty, which is going to follow next. Are you getting me?
Yes.
It's more of a societal problem.
Yes.
So you'll find this officer who is speaking money there with impunity. He has been encouraged, not only by his colleagues or us who are supposed to deal with him, but also by the public. Because the manamba, the conductor and the driver wants to carry 20 people in a matatu, which is supposed to carry 14, so that the 6, those extra 6, they'll never give the owner of the matatu. The extra 6 they'll share between themselves and that policeman.
Okay.
So our society, and also just go back to the society. You are employed somewhere as a CEO, and then you refuse to take bribes, and then you leave broke. Everybody in the society says, oh, Flani was given an opportunity. He never used that. He left poor. He's a very bad person. Today, if you are given a CEO's job, the whole village expects you to employ them at the expense of the rest of the country. They'll say, wewe ni mjinga sana, umekataa kusaidia watu wa wa kwenu. So much of it is that our standards have gone so low as a society that we accept things that are immoral. And that is what we take to be acceptable. And therefore, for us to manage all this from what Ocean is saying, what went wrong?
Okay.
Because even if you go to elections, you cannot go to campaign and then you just talk and tell people policies, then you go away. No. They'll expect after you've talked, wanapanga laini, wanapeana pesa. Are you getting me? So when you go, you must replace this money which you had given people. So it's a problem.
But I think at the same time, Kenyans respect people who use their positions the right way. And that's why till today, we still talk about Michuki rules. We still talk about the roads that Michuki built. So as much as there's a majority that are sort of okay with these and not really doing much to, talk about it, people still respect individuals who leave a legacy of honesty, hard work, and diligence when they're given some of these positions.
Okay.
No, the people do. I mean, that's why, Matiang'i has become a hero, because of that diligence and honesty. But that is why I'm also saying there are stories that need to be told about the police. You will find that police officer who retires after 30 years of service, who did so well in service, who was celebrated, who was honest, who was diligent, who was above reproach, who lived neither to be bought nor sold. But then his story just dies. The story of Michuki may be out here with us because it was constantly told and retold. The story of Fred Okengo Matiang'i is here with us because it is told and retold. Where are the stories of those people? We need to get the stories out here for our people to experience. But I agree that it is, it's our society. That's where, you remember when I talked about crime, I said society.
Okay.
And that our police are not insulated. We need to get back to the roots of training our children. Today a child gets back home driving a 2018 Range Rover, which is by every means about 30 million shillings. The mother in the village will clap and say, God, look, you have blessed my child. They will not question and say, my child, where did you get this from? How did you buy it? What do you do? There is no sense of accountability in society today. And parents instead celebrate. And when you go and tell them that your child's acquisition is questionable, my friend, they will lynch you.
Yes.
That collective societal responsibility has died.
That's because we're not taking ownership. Like he mentioned, he said when we talk about the police, it's very easy for us to say the police, that policeman, instead of our police.
Okay.
And I think it will take us a very long time to get solutions to this challenge that we have right now unless we take ownership. Like you're saying, so we as Kenyans, it is now up to us to share these positive stories, because sometimes if the police do it, given the kind of relations we have between communities and the police right now, people might not really believe it. But have we taken enough ownership
we
for
believe
our
there are several
country?
policemen. In fact, there's one that have been sent his video encouraging other policemen to be diligent. There's that policeman, GSC officer, was captured on camera between 2007 2008 post-election violence. Look at the kind of how it was shared. There's several police who have helped. There's a policeman who was featured helping someone, carrying, even pushing a car. Just as recent as last week, I saw a traffic police officer pushing a car, and people loved them. So there's several stories.
Who left his gun when teachers have taken off in Northeastern and became the teacher. Stories that are untold, that need to be given prominence, that need celebration, and their names need to be engraved in our minds. I want
to remember them.
See them getting HSC when they do act on. Of course, you're not going to award everybody with HSC, but I know internally you will know that these have been stellar, and even their colleagues agree that whereas we are good, these have been a cut above us.
Let me hear from the gentlemen, because they're the people who deal with them every single day, internal affairs. What do you do? What do you do to encourage them?
Every time, first of all, for a typical example is that somebody will come and lodge a complaint and say that Officer A has offended me because of ABCD. And then we ask him, can you tell us your story exactly how it happened? So that that story does not change. So that we can now confront the officer and say that this is an allegation. Once we have completed the investigation, sometimes you find that, honestly, the officer did due diligence.
Okay.
And from then, one, we acknowledge to the complainant. But once the investigation is finalized, we also tell the officer that we investigated you and found that the allegations against you were not true. Of course, we will have obtained the concurrence of the Inspector General, because we report to the Inspector General. And the officer needs to know, because you guys came down, investigated me, and therefore I need to know, was I found culpable? Then we tell him, you were found clean. So it doesn't matter. And policing by its very nature attracts a lot of complaints.
Okay.
Yes, because even when you arrest a criminal, the family will not be very happy with you if they side with him. So we walk the balance that we never accuse any officer that he is guilty until we have conclusively. Of course, if there are signs or indicators showing that there's lots of evidence revealing malpractices, then we would easily recommend that the officer, first of all, be suspended or interdicted while investigations go on.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
But we never take the moral authority to say that an officer has, until we have proven the truth or otherwise.
Let me ask Charles this question. Charles, the notion that we have as Kenyans, that indeed the authorities, the top cops, the leadership of the police protects the juniors when they have obviously committed crime. Is it true?
Let me make one comment before Charles comes in. Internationally, it is recognized, and media are our brothers, the fourth estate, have actually had sessions with them, and they say, we don't trust internal mechanisms to investigate their own. It is a international notion that they believe in outsiders more than ability of insiders investigating their own. But I can tell you, the organizations, including the doctors and dentists, practitioners board, that investigate their own, and they find them culpable. People must learn to have faith in institutions that are, until the contrary is
maybe the best
Charles
way would be for him to give us numbers and say, you know, for example, last year we interdicted 54, while IPOA with all the resources has only been able to nail 6.
Yes.
Then now that would be a basis for saying internally we are doing a better job.
Yes. That notion that there's protection. For example, the press conferences that we have when something happens, and I know the one that rings a bell in my mind is after the election. So is it true that they're protected or not?
First of all, I speak for police. I'm the spokesperson for the police service. And I know I've gotten a lot of accusations, including from where Osiany and yourself come from my background, that we protect government. It's my duty to protect everyone, including government. I was just showing Osiany a very simple article in the Constitution: assembly, demonstration, picketing, and petitioning. And I was telling him where we come from, our community, we brag for being quite educated. And it's a very simple statement that every person has the right peacefully and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. Do we do it peacefully? Do we do it unarmed? You know. So, you know, you don't ventilate your frustrations to police. Police, we have only one duty: maintain law and order. And even if you are my brother, I have to maintain law and order.
But even when you do that, there is a need to respect human rights.
That is true, and that is quite true.
Yeah.
That you must respect rights.
The human rights.
But in the process of respecting the rights, and that is why the Constitution is also very clear on the Bill of Rights. If you look at chapter 24, that there are limits to rights. That as you enjoy your rights and fundamental freedoms, you must be able also to respect the rights and freedoms of others. You don't prejudice. The Constitution does not allow you to prejudice the rights and freedoms of others in enjoyment of your rights and freedoms. And that's what we do as police. And also I have a duty to protect officers that work under me. I must, because if officers are demoralized, they'll not protect you. And that is why, in certain circumstances, they may use their firearms, and I would say they were justified. Because there is law.
Only if they're justified.
Yes,
You wouldn't say
yes, but you see, generally the public believes they are not justified. But people forget that in law, there's a provision of justifiable circumstances when you can use your firearm.
There's
For
also
example,
provision for reasonable force, right? There's also provision for reasonable force.
So
yes.
reasonable force.
Yes.
What determines reasonable force? It is the force that is used against the person you are protecting, which is common public, or against you.
Okay.
Because you don't expect to come with an AK-47 in town, brandishing an AK-47. It will be upon me to use it against you before you use it against another person,
okay,
or against me. Are you getting me? The moment you have just carried an AK-47 to town, who are you coming to hunt?
Exactly.
No, so, you know, and another thing, you must be able to tell the public the truth, that the police can use their firearm against you. But if you don't tell them the truth, that the police can use that is where you find people walking around with guns and trying to threaten others or even kill others.
Yes.
Because what do you expect of us when we had like cases of Dusit?
Exactly.
Somebody has come up with a firearm, he has come up with bombs. What do you do? So
exactly.
what we are saying, my brother, is that it is important that we must also, as the senior officers of police, protect our officers.
Which is true.
Because we are not just protecting the officers, we are protecting the sovereignty, the security of yourself and this country.
You have given a perfect example.
Yes.
But I want to go back to reasonable force. I didn't intend to wade into this debate. There's a case where a policeman shot a child when he raided a Changa den, for example.
Yes.
You remember that case? It's just a month old or something.
Yes, but the question is,
yes,
that officer would suffer, definitely, whether he did it mistakenly or because you cannot justify shooting a child.
Yes.
But what I know, the officer never aimed to shoot
the child.
The child.
It was a stray bullet.
Are you getting me?
But
But you see, we will look at it. So, did it warrant?
Okay.
Did the raid of this Changaden warrant you using
a firearm?
A firearm. Are you getting me? What threat were you facing? Yes. So all these things, the circumstances will be. It will be very important to get to know the circumstances. But lastly, Mujungu,
yes,
I want to say this. As Kenyans, we need to protect our police. Yes, let's accuse them where they are wrong. But let us also learn to accuse individual police officers. Because the moment we bring up children who fear police, we bring up children who believe policemen are bad, the relationship between police and the public will continue to widen. Okay. The moment the relationship between police and the public widens, what will happen is that we will not be able to get information. I can tell you today, the DCI is getting a lot of information from the public because they have confidence in him. Exactly. And that confidence in him has not come from anywhere. The confidence in him is that even the head of state can stand up in public and say, if Kinoti arrests you, I'll not pick your call. But if today the DCI knows he can arrest you and then somebody can call the head of state and then he's told don't arrest, do you think he will bother?
All right.
He won't. So what we are saying is that the goodwill from the public, starting from the smallest person, everybody should know this is our police, even a small child. Huyu ni polisi yetu. Na kama kuna a policeman who is doing a wrong thing, let's deal with him as a society. All of us, whether you are a civilian, whether you are a policeman, we deal with him and tell him that you are stepping on the sovereignty and the pride of our country. And we cannot allow you to do that.